Let me ask you something. Think about the best parent that you know, not the most technically skilled parent, not the one who has read every parenting book or the perfect technique for every situation. I'm talking about the best one, the one whose kids feel seen, safe, and confident. Now, I want you to tell me what makes them good at being a parent. I'm talking about what makes them good, really, really good at being a parent. It's not the technique, it's not the research, it's not the perfect response to every situation. It's the fact that they show up consistently, intentionally, present, and they model the behavior that they want to see. That's it. Leadership works the exact same way. Now, I'm not calling the people on your team children, but today I want to talk about what most leaders are working so hard on doing the wrong thing. But first, I want to welcome you to the Quiet Mic. I'm Natasha, and this channel is for business owners and leaders who want to lead their teams very well without losing themselves in the process. Okay. If this is your first time, go ahead, hit subscribe. I have something that's coming very soon that you are going to want to be in the room for. Okay. Today, I'm challenging the way that most people think about what it means to be a good leader. Specifically, I'm going to talk about three things that change when you shift your focus from perfecting your skills to building your presence. Okay. Now, here's what most leadership development gets wrong. It treats leadership like it's a technical skill that needs to be mastered. Like if you just learn the right feedback, the right framework, the right delegation system, the right conflict resolution approach, then you'll be a good leader. And those things do have value. So I am not dismissing them. But here's the truth that most leadership content skips over. Before any of those skills can land, before your team can receive your feedback, before they can follow your direction or trust your decisions, they have to experience your presence. They have to experience your consistency and your intention. They have to experience your willingness to show up even when it's hard. And there's no framework that's going to teach you that. That comes from deciding who you are as a leader and that you are a person that's going to show up deliberately. Now, here's what changes when you make that shift. I want to get into it. I won't be here before you long. Number one, your team is going to start to trust the leader before they trust the plan. Now, here's the first thing that changes when a leader prioritizes presence over perfection. And I know it's hard. Your team is going to stop waiting to see if the plan works before they commit to it. Instead, they commit because they trust the person that's leading the plan. I want you to think about it from your own experience. Have you ever followed somebody that it's an uncertain situation? And it's not because you were sure that the plan was right, but because you trusted the person enough to go along anyway. That's the presence at work. That's what it looks like when a leader has built enough trust by consistently and intentionally showing up. In return, what happens is that their team moves with them even when the path is not completely clear. Now, compare that to the leader who has every framework memorized, every process documented, every system in place, but their team waits to see which way the wind blows before they commit. Not because the plan is bad, but because the trust just is not there, because presence has not been built yet. There's a business owner that I'm aware of that has spent months building out detailed processes for her team. Everyone had a playbook, every role was in that playbook. Every project had a system, but her team kept coming back to her for every decision. And it wasn't because the processes were not clear, because they hadn't experienced her as someone who was consistently in it with them. And although the systems were there, her presence was not. And without presence, even the best systems are going to feel like instructions from a distance. And what changes when presence comes first is this: your team doesn't follow your plan, they follow you. The plan just gives them something to execute. Okay. And that leads us to the second thing that changes when you shift your leadership presence. Number two is your team stops performing for you and they start contributing with you. Okay. Now, this is a shift that most leaders don't even realize that they need until they experience it. And once they do, they can't get it back. When a leader is focused on executing the right techniques, their team learns to perform for them. They do what they think the leader wants to see. They present information in the way that they think will land best. They show up in meetings the way that they think the leader expects. Essentially, they're performing. And I will tell you, performance is very exhausting to sustain, that is. It's also a barrier to real contribution because people can't be fully present and fully performing at the same time. But listen, friend, when a leader shows up with presence, with genuine attention, with consistency and intention, something shifts in the team. They stop trying to figure out what the leader wants and they start to actually think about what the work needs. They stop managing up and start contributing forward. And that shift is felt immediately in the quality of conversations, in the ideas that come forward, in the willingness to say what's actually true instead of saying what's safe. Now, good parents know this intuitively. When a child feels genuinely seen and safe, they stop performing for approval and they start showing up as themselves. And that's when the real growth happens. Leadership works the same way. And I want you to understand, well, one thing I want you to understand about the shift is this. A team that feels your presence stops performing for you and they start producing with you. That's the difference between compliance and commitment. Okay. And that brings us to the final thing that changes, and that's number three. Your leadership presence becomes the foundation that makes everything else work. Okay. Now, here's the third thing that changes. And this is the one that I really want you to sit with because it changes how you think about everything else in your leadership. When presence is the foundation, every other leadership skill that you develop lands differently. Your feedback lands because your team trusts the person that's giving it. Your direction is followed because your team believes in the person that's pointing the way. Your systems work because the team is committed to the person who built them. Presence is what makes the skills matter. Without it, even the best techniques feel empty. And you don't want that, friend. But here's the part that most people miss. Presence is the foundation, but that doesn't mean that you have to be present for everything all the time. In fact, when presence is genuinely established, it creates the conditions for your team to operate without you consistently in the middle of everything because they're not following the system, they're following a standard that you set. And how that standard lives is because you've consistently shown up and communicated and led. That's the goal. Not a team that needs you for every single decision, but instead a team that carries your leadership presence even when you're not in the room. Because you've been intentional enough, consistent enough, and present enough to build it into the way they work. Good parents understand this too. I know I keep going back to that analogy, but the goal was never to be needed for everything. The goal was to show up so consistently and intentionally that your kids internalize your values and they carry them forward all on their own. Leadership is no different. And what I've come to know about watching leaders at every level navigate this is this. Presence is not about being everywhere. It's about being so intentional that when you are there, your leadership echoes when you're not. Now, I want to say something directly to the leader who has been working really, really hard at the skill side of leadership. They've been reading, learning, taking notes, trying new approaches, and they still feel like something isn't quite clicking with their team. Come closer, friend. I want you to hear this. The work that you've been doing matters. It's not wasted. But skills without presence are like a good recipe that nobody prepared with love. It's technically correct, but missing something essential. Your team doesn't need you to be a perfect leader. They need you to be a present one. They need to feel that when you're in the room, you're actually in the room. That when you give direction, you've thought about them, not just the outcome. That when things get hard, you're not going to disappear into the details and leave them without a steady hand. Okay. That's called presence. And it doesn't require certification or framework or 10 years of experience. It just requires a decision to show up intentionally, a decision to show up consistently as yourself. And here's what becomes possible when you make that decision and then build the right systems around it. A leader with presence and a plan doesn't just run a team. they build one that runs. Yeah. So here's what I want you to take away from today. Okay. Your team doesn't need you to have mastered every leadership technique. They need you to show up consistently. They need you to communicate intentionally, and they need you to be present enough that they can feel who you are as a leader, even when you're not in the room. That's the foundation. And it's what makes every other thing that you build on top of it actually work. Presence is where it starts, but it is not where it ends because the goal is not to be needed everywhere all the time. The goal is to lead intentional that your team can operate with clarity and confidence even when you step back. You want to be able to step back, right? That takes presence first, and then it takes a system built on top of it. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what that system actually looks like for the business owner who's ready to stop leading by feeling and to start leading with a real framework. And I do have something that's coming very soon that I think is going to be exactly what you need. So stay close. Okay. Before you close this out, go ahead, drop in the comment section and tell me on a scale of things of presence, when presence is concerned, where has most of your leadership energy been going? I do read the comments and I really, really want to know. Okay. And if this episode gave you something real, go ahead, share it with one leader, two leaders, however many in your life who need to hear this message today. That's the best way to help this channel to grow. If you have not done so already, go ahead and subscribe. And again, I want you to stay close because what's coming next was built specifically for the leader who was ready to stop guessing and to start leading with intention and a real framework behind them. Okay. Now remember, the quiet ones move the room. So let your quiet speak loud. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.